Placid5 here, and I don't know about you guys, but dark and anxiety-fueled movies are the ones that stick with me the most. While there are plenty of movies out there that have their fair share of suspenseful moments and surprises, there's a handful of movies that grab on tight to the viewer and make them feel suffocated and nervous throughout. Just as you're watching this video, I know you're probably thinking of a few TV shows or movies that have made you feel this way in the past. So hold on to that thought, buckle your seatbelts, and follow along as we highlight some of the most anxiety-inducing movies to ever exist from my personal experience. All these movies played with my emotions and created an anxious experience that really stuck with me for one reason or another. Before I begin, please be sure to hit that sub button and turn on notifications to stay up to date with our latest content just like this. And I'd love to hear which movies I missed on this list. Alright, let's get started. So when making the script for this video, Uncut Gems was the first movie that popped into my mind. Directed by the Safdie Brothers, Uncut Gems tells the anxiety-filled story of a fast-talking, compulsive gambler and his antics involving those he owes money to, and his frequent hustling. From the minute the movie starts, it does not let go of the viewer. What makes Uncut Gems so effective is the way it's shot and edited. It's noisy and frantic, just like the lead character. Constantly people are yelling, arguing, yapping, and when that isn't happening, the viewer's hit with loud horns, crowds, and every other sound in the book. There's not a moment of peace and quiet in Uncut Gems, and that's what makes it so anxiety-fused. They also employ close-up angles and shots, suffocating the frame. Match this with multiple events going on all at the same time, centered around a massive bet by the main character, and you have one hell of a ride. Next up, we have perhaps one of my favorite movies of all time, Whiplash. The story is simple on the surface, and follows a young, ambitious drummer and his clash against a ruthless band instructor, played by the legendary J.K. Simmons. Director Damien Chazelle admitted that he filmed the movie like a horror movie, even though it isn't actually a horror movie, and employed his own experience in being in a band and feeling the nervousness and anxiousness of his instructor. What makes this movie so suspenseful and tense is the incredible acting by J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller. Fletcher is absolutely ruthless and commands the stage flawlessly, almost to an evil extent, depending on who you ask. Every scene captures that feeling of being confronted and ridiculed by a teacher or authority figure, but multiplies it by 100 times. Everyone is at his mercy, and he knows it. The subtle details of his character and Andrew's resilience make this a tense movie unlike any other. Your heart will be pounding and you'll be sweating all the way to the very last frame. Next up, we have more of an oddball pick, and that is Adam McKay's 2021 comedy/drama, Don't Look Up. Now for starters, I'm not a huge fan of movies that push political messages, but I'd be lying if I said that this movie didn't impact me in some way. The story follows two astronomers as they try to tell the world that a dangerous comet is approaching Earth and it will obliterate the human race if it isn't stopped. That alone is an unnerving premise, but the way the movie plays on this idea of impending doom is brilliant. Aside from the satire and comedy elements, the movie follows its neurotic lead characters that fume with anxiety throughout as they try their best to warn people, but the anxiety comes when nobody listens. Throughout the runtime, the movie plays on this factor as the world seems distracted and unconcerned by the fact that their world and all their lives will end in a few weeks. The movie does a great job at making you feel anxious and mad as you watch the events unfold with no one to help. The final act of the movie is the best part and captures the hopelessness and acceptance of what could have been avoided but wasn't. Continuing on now, we have Beau is Afraid, a movie that came out this year by horror director Ari Aster. As one of his most ambitious movies so far, I thought that parts of this movie are able to capture that feeling of unease and tension more than any other movie in the genre or this year. This hellish 3-hour journey follows an anxious and mild-mannered man on his quest to visit his mother, who suddenly died. While the movie borders on surreal and unnatural at times, the first and second act of the movie creates an extremely anxious and suffocating vibe. This is partly due to Joaquin Phoenix's performance. His character is scared of the world, and since we see through his eyes, every element is always danger, even when it's actually not. The acting is incredible, and cinematography and editing make this a sweat-inducing ride that just doesn't let up until the third act. It's a bit of a long movie, and the end is a bit strange, but I do recommend checking it out if you can stomach it. Next up, we move on to the war genre with 1917. As one of the most realistic and unique war movies out there, 1917 follows the simple premise of two soldiers and their task to deliver a message across enemy territory before their fellow soldiers fall into a trap that will cost the lives of thousands of men. The concept alone is a race against the clock, with every single setback and complication costing them time and adding more and more tension. But what sets 1917 apart is the fact that it's shot all in one take, or rather appears to be one take, similar to a video game. This builds a level of tension and unease as the camera never cuts. We see a treacherous and brutal journey as the two men embark deep into enemy territory, and we have no choice but to follow along with them no matter how bad things get. As the clock continues to tick, the final act is a masterclass of suspense and anxiety as our protagonist must make a final last-ditch effort to deliver the note. If you haven't seen the movie, I won't spoil it, but what are you waiting for? Go check it out now. Now switching over to the horror genre, I have Don't Breathe. As one of the best modern day horror movies in my opinion, Don't Breathe follows a break-in entry gone wrong. A trio of thieves break into the house of a blind man, but it doesn't take long for them to realize that they are the ones in danger. What's so unique about this particular movie is how the concept of sound becomes the enemy. As they slowly maneuver through the blind man's house, there are so many moments where things are happening and they must try to be as quiet as possible, and their lives literally depend on it. This creates an anxious and tense feeling. Robbers must limit their every movement and sound, similar to the A Quiet Place franchise. Later on in the movie, the plot thickens even more when a sinister secret is revealed in the basement of the man's house. Don't Breathe works on a lot of levels, and because of its premise, it's able to use the theme of silence in a lot of clever ways. While it may not be the most anxiety-inducing movie on this list, it's definitely worth the mention. Next up, we have Michael Haneke's sadistic thriller Funny Games. This is referring to either the original Austrian version or the US version, which is the one I watched. They are virtually both the same movie, pretty much shot for shot. The premise follows two psychopathic men as they take a family hostage in their cabin and essentially torture them for entertainment. Apart from the movie being very unsettling and pretty disturbing, it makes the viewer feel tense and uneasy from beginning to end. The way it's shot and the nonchalant attitude the two men have during the movie is enough to punch you right in the gut. The anxiety comes from the way that the perpetrators continue to give the family false hope, along with all the other horrible things they do until the end. The movie isn't the most disturbing or gory movie you'll ever see by any means, but as a criticism on violence and entertainment, it definitely does the trick and created a level of unease that I haven't experienced in a lot of movies in that genre. Sticking with the theme of horror, we have the original John Carpenter classic, The Thing. Known for its incredible special effects and suspenseful nature, The Thing follows a research team in Antarctica as they are hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. As a classic body horror movie, The Thing mangles and contorts its victims into unsettling creatures with impressive visual effects. As the viewer sees what happens to its victims of the Thing, they're terrified by the danger of it. But what makes this an anxiety-inducing adventure is the fact that the Thing could be in any one of the members of the crew, and they're isolated, completely far away from humanity, so there's no one coming to save them. There's no telling who has it, and this is used to genius effect as a suspenseful set piece in the later half of the movie. It's that uneasy feeling that there's danger and a grim entity among them, but they don't know who it is. Top that with the brilliant ending and the grotesque special effects, and The Thing is a masterclass in horror and thrills. And finally, we end off with the 2021 drama thriller amply titled Boiling Point. While the name of it may lead the viewer to think that this is some kind of action-packed movie, it's actually about a day in the life of a restaurant staff. The movie follows the cooks, the waitresses, and the general staff in the busiest night of the year. Similar to 1917, the movie relies on the one-take scheme to full effect. It's impressive to see how much technical aspects of the film were used to create one seamless shot through the front and the back of the house. If you've seen the FX series The Bear, it rivals the same level of tension but stretches it out for an hour and a half. Boiling Point perfectly captures the stress and pressures involved in running a restaurant and all the problems that arise in the most pivotal moments. The movie does not let go of its script from the start to the end, and with brilliant performances from Stephen Graham and the cast, along with immersive, fast-paced visuals, Boiling Point creates a super tense and anxiety-inducing ride. Well, there you have it. the most anxiety-inducing movies off the top of my head. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. Tell me below which movie made you feel the most anxious personally. Would love to hear all the comments, but thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.